Hey guys, sorry I missed last week's movies. Sorry I missed the review. My grandpa passed away, and so I've been writing the obituary, and I'm doing the eulogy for the service. So that's why I wasn't available. And also next weekend, I won't be able to do a review then because that's the actual funeral. But hey, I'm here this weekend. Let's do it. Inferno is the third installment in the Robert Langdon trilogy, once again directed by Ron Howard and starring Tom Hanks, this time including Felicity Jones and Irrfan Khan. The novels that these movies are inspired by and are based off of are actually my favorite books of all time. And Tom Hanks being my favorite actor of all time, you'd think I would be so into these movies, right? Well, maybe I like them a little more than most, but to me, Ron Howard has missed the marks with the previous two. I do like Tom Hanks as Robert Langdon, but a lot of people would say that the Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons were a mile behind the books. Inferno might be a couple miles behind him. So Robert Langdon wakes up in a hospital with no memory of what happened in the last 48 hours, and there's this virus called the Inferno virus that is going to wipe out 95% of the Earth's population because of overpopulation, where this guy thinks that needs to be fixed. And then you have Robert Langdon trying to figure out what's been happening. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know who to trust. And so this puzzle ensues. And what works so well with the other movies is the brilliance of Robert Langdon. That's what's amazing about the books. But in this movie, with his memory loss and his issues with not even trusting his own mind now, that's taken away. And that, I think, it was very much missing, where the other two were very compelling in that aspect. This one, that was missing, and it wasn't as gripping as the other ones were with that aspect. And it kind of contradicts itself. Some stuff doesn't make sense. Like there's a scene where he can solve all these puzzles, but he can't remember the word for coffee. So it just doesn't make sense. Just getting some quick positives. I like the mystery, the story. All the movies and the books, the stories are really great. It's just how you execute them hasn't been the greatest. But again, this movie has a cool mystery, and they blended a little bit more horror into this one than the other movies too. I actually, as we were walking into the theater today, there was this old man and his grandson, and they were talking to the person at the desk, and they said they had to leave because it was too scary for this kid. I think he was maybe 10 or 11 years old. So that would give you a little more, think about that when you go into the movie. It is a lot darker and maybe more violent than the other two. But I did like that blend of horror and try and do something new with it. And the music was great. Now, the score was wonderful. And Hans Zimmer, he always does a fantastic job, so no surprise there. Now, some negatives. The directing was the biggest negative for me. Now, Ron Howard is a great director. Just for one example, Apollo 13, also starring Tom Hanks, is a fantastic movie. But for me, he tries to do some stuff different, which I applaud him for that, in this movie from the previous two. But the cuts were very jumpy, the pacing was off, and it was just distracting. It kind of took me out of it. And again, the other negative is just that the mystery was there, the story was there, it just was not executed, just like kind of the other two films. It's just not the greatest movie. It's a very bland, kind of by the numbers action movie rather than a compelling mystery or a thriller than what you would expect. Just overall thoughts for me is that the story was there, is good, Tom Hanks is good, Felicity Jones is good, Irrfan Khan is good, the performances are fine, it's just the directing and the execution. These are all movies that aren't terrible movies. This isn't an awful movie. They have good story, but it's just not executed in the way that you would want them to be. It's kind of a cliche night at the movies movie that you're not going to remember. In a few days, you're not going to be talking about it still. I would say it's a good cable watch. It's on cable. Check it out. They're great mysteries. It's just not executed well. I'm going to give Inferno a 6.3 out of 10. Again, these are great stories. They're my favorite books, but they're just not executed to film as well as they could be. It's kind of a bummer, but they're not awful movies. I would say check it out on cable. You don't need to rush to the theaters to get this, but I'm sure it's going to make a lot of money. The other two did, so they're probably going to get another sequel. Yes! So that was my review of Inferno, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe to us, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter for more movie reviews. Again, I will miss next week, but I'll be back with more reviews. I'll be catching up, and we got some fun other little stuff in the works for you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.